We got him promoted to vice president of IT. And now he leads his own IT department. So if I can only leave you with one message today, never, ever give up.
We are the Social Ninjas. I am your co-host, as always, Kyle, and join with me is Jeremy. What's going on, Jeremy?
Woo! What's going on?
And then we also have our special guest, Mike Tomasello. How's it going, Mike?
It's going great, Kyle. I'm excited to be here.
All right, we're glad you're here as well. So let me just introduce Mike real quick. So our next guest was called a top career thought leader by Kevin Harrington from TV Shark Tank. He is a hardcore introvert who struggled with social anxiety for his entire life, and he's turned it around to be paid to speak on stages internationally and helps thousands and thousands of people overcome anxiety, to get better jobs, making more money, doing work they love. He's the CEO of CareerSuccessSecrets.net. I'm excited to have with us Mike Tomasello.
Wow, thanks, guys. I actually got more anxiety hearing you read that to me. It should be pretty exciting to see what happens today.
I enjoyed my being enthusiastic doing that. I liked your little side note in the bio that you gave me.
I like to help where I can.
So is there anything we missed before we start, Mike?
Well, I find that people don't know who the heck I am yet. So I always sort of default towards, like, some credibility with you guys that are listening right now, because you don't want to hear about what's going on with me. But I've been in the business of helping people with their careers and helping people land better jobs for over 7 years now. I love what I do. I think the particularly interesting thing when it comes to this podcast is, well, one, people that are trying to make progress in their careers, they have a lot of anxiety. As much as I've been doing this for 7 years and doing a lot of the things that have gotten me to this point over 20 years, I still have anxiety. So I think that's going to blend for a really entertaining conversation today.
Sounds great. And I'm just going to start it off. Could you take us through the journey of where you were with your social anxiety and kind of what steps you took to get to where you are now?
Yeah, back in junior high and high school, I was a dork and a nerd. I actually say that in a great way now. I've actually embraced the fact that I love the fact I'm a dork and a nerd, but back then it didn't feel that way. Like, I was extremely hardcore introvert when I first started taking the Myers-Briggs test and stuff like that. I was like 90% introvert, like almost every single question on that test, I was graded as an introvert on. And I remember my senior year, I had so much anxiety that my senior year in high school, I had so much anxiety that I couldn't realize that there were attractive girls that actually liked me and date with me. Yet I was sitting there in history class, and this girl who she was new to school, and sure enough, every single class, like for 2 or 3 months, like she would be looking at me and sneaking looks at me. And I had so much anxiety, I didn't do anything with it. And she actually approached me after class and started walking down the hallway, and I was nervous, so I was trying to act all cool. All of a sudden, while we were walking, I wasn't looking where I was going, and I collided right into a trash can. Almost completely fell over. The good news is, despite all of that, she actually became my girlfriend. But that was not one of my shiniest moments. since then, I've just really embraced, and I've tried to do this whenever I experience anxiety. I've tried to embrace that. You said this before the call. Anxiety is an opportunity to grow, and so I've always been really good at saying, hey, what's something, even if it's super tiny, that I can do towards moving away from this? Whether it's saying hello to a girl, or whether it's practicing on a video, even if I'm not showing the video to anyone else, and just talking to myself.
That's good. I like, I like just embracing kind of what you said earlier, what we think of ourselves as things as flaws. So like embracing the nerd, whereas back then you were like, oh, I'm a nerd. And now you kind of embracing that as, I love being that. Because I remember feeling that way in high school. I was super pale. Well, I still am super pale, and I hated that.
Uh-huh.
I want to be tan. Like, why can't I be that? And then once I was able to like transition that mindset and just like, I love being pale. Like, I love how white I am. I want to ask you, how did you go about making that transition to actually loving your nerdy self?
Yeah, it's a journey that I'm constantly on, and I think a lot of us are. One of the smartest things that I did, because I'm a little bit older than some of your listeners out there. I'm 44, and so I really didn't start embracing all of who I am until my 30s. So, about 10 years ago, and particularly in the past 5 or 6 years or so. But, one of the smartest things I did was I went out there and I got resources. What one of my coaches would say is, well, if you're struggling with something, resource up, find something. Doesn't matter if it's listening to a podcast, like the Social Ninjas, or having a coach, or getting a book, whatever you're struggling with, there's a resource to help you get better. And so that's what I did. I said, I might be awkward. I might be uncomfortable with stuff. I might not even, back then, didn't even like all of the parts of who I was. What I had control of was I had the control to get better. And so I sought out resources. One of the coaches that I hired, brilliant. I would say his name, but I don't think he's doing it anymore. One of the core concepts that he taught, and I think, Kyle, you mentioned this in the beginning, like related to embracing dorkiness, is he talked about appreciation. A lot of people confuse what appreciation means. When he talked about appreciation, he meant appreciate everything and anything, awkward, even if it was ugly, even if it, and so he had this phrase he always used to say is, be a yes to everything. Not as easy as it sounds, but like being a yes to everything. Like, if you're friggin' uncomfortable with walking up to a woman and saying hello, that, man, I'm friggin' uncomfortable. Like, this is really weird right now. Like, he actually walked up to a woman and he said, now, he has a little bit different personality than mine. I would never say this, but he walked up to her and he said, "Hey woman, I am so friggin' nervous around you. Like, are you like,
Wait, I missed that last part. What did he say?
Are you dangerous?"
Oh, okay.
So, he was able to be uncomfortable and, still throw in some humor and bring out part of his personality. So, I'm not always good at doing it every day, but I always say, hey, well, can I just appreciate this moment for what it is?
Mm.
Did that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Just owning it. Like we've talked about this in previous podcasts where we talk about just how powerful vulnerability is, and that can actually help you in a lot of ways. So I noticed at the very beginning, you said, I'm nervous. You just owned it. You weren't resisting it. And it actually made me more comfortable. Right? So
Yeah.
I think
I think I think we get so caught up in ourselves and our anxiety sometimes that we forget there are hundreds of millions of people, and that's probably not even a high enough number. There are at a minimum hundreds of millions of people that are struggling with anxiety, or struggling with something, or they're going through a tough time right now. So when we can be vulnerable, that gives them permission to be comfortable and sort of embrace what's going on.
I agree. Yeah. I have a quick question. I wanted to get kind of into like the coaching of help people get their dream job. What are some tech? I guess it changes now. Like, what is your opinion on the job market with this whole pandemic going on? I think you're frozen.
We're waiting for Mike to unfreeze.
Let's just own this. Own how he's frozen right now.
This is really bad.
He's really mad at me.
We lost him. The Social Ninjas podcast is having technical difficulties at this time. Please stand by.
Please remain calm. Your show will resume in just a short moment. Centavos, por favor. This has never happened before, so this is a growing experience. What do we do now, Kyle?
Well, nothing we really can do. Hopefully he clicks on the link and comes back in.
I'm changing for round 2. Maybe that was it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, look how much better the lighting is in this. Right? Didn't I like way cuter? Should I stop the recording and wait for him to come back? Pause it?
Yeah. That's
Okay.
a good idea.
All right, we are recording again. We're the Social Ninjas. We had technical difficulties. The Mike lost his internet. It was such a great growing experience.
I'm at least 3 inches taller after that growing experience.
So I'm going to ask the question again and be grateful for that internet slippage. How would you recommend, or how would you approach the job market now that this pandemic has, in my judgment, made it substantially harder to get a job?
Yeah. So a couple different things on the pandemic issue and the job market. One, anxiety feeds anxiety, and so part of why the job market is so tough. I mean, granted, there's a lot of real issues going on. There are people being laid off. There are, a lot more people out of work and not making money. So I am not discounting those challenges at all. And the problem is everybody is so anxious and so fearful around the future and things that they can't control that it's causing people to be 5-10 times more anxious than they already are. So when you're in a situation like that, people are a lot less likely to do anything, and they over exaggerate what's actually going on when they actually have very little data. So despite the fact that some companies have had to lay some people off, I know that there are tons of companies, maybe not as many as before, but there are tons of companies that are still hiring. So one, acknowledging what you think the reality is might not actually be the reality. There's tons of companies that are still hiring. It's going to depending on your function. It's going to depending on your industry. But there are plenty of opportunities out there if you know what you're doing. The other thing that I would say in this market is that the other thing that's being magnified is the same challenges of job search before all of this happened are just being magnified by 10. So something that is really huge that a lot of people don't understand about the job market is even before the pandemic, the average job in the United States gets 100 applicants per position. Now that's for a job or a company that most people have never heard of. Because it's so easy to find something on the internet, tons of people can apply for one thing. Now, the larger companies that are more well-known, so, let's say like a Warner Brothers or a Boeing, those companies are going to get 1,000 applicants per position. 1,000. Now, think whatever your dream company is, for a lot of people, it's Facebook or Google or maybe a Disney. Those companies are getting 2,000 applicants per position, and this was before the pandemic started.
Wow.
I don't share that with you to scare you and give you even more anxiety. I share that with you because most people are employing the wrong job search strategies to begin with, and they're just applying online. They're assuming that something is wrong with the employer or something is wrong with their resume if they're not getting responses back. The reality is the volume is just making it harder for them to be seen. So the one thing that I advocate for all job searchers, which, especially for people with anxiety is a little bit harder, is that 80% of jobs get found through someone that you know.
80%. Okay.
80%. So the good news for you is if you don't think you don't know anyone, change the language. 80% of the jobs are found through people you know or people that you will know soon. So when you think about it that way, if you simply work on expanding the number of people that you get introduced to, if you go out there, you can't go to events anymore. But the cool thing about everything going virtual is it's actually faster to network with people one-on-one.
Yeah.
And when I say networking, I don't mean slamming someone with the business card. I don't mean, saying, hey, here's my coaching service, or hey, I need a job. Networking is all about reaching out to people that you know or that you're in the process of meeting and building a relationship with them.
I have a question.
I didn't want to give you too much at once before
I had a question. So you talked about some of these main companies had 2,000 applicants for one job position.
Yep.
What about now?
It's probably a multiple of that. So it's probably double the amount since there's so many people looking. So when you think about it that way, the market and the new reality is saying, hey, you can't keep doing the same thing that you've been doing because it's going to work even worse than it was working for you before. And so what I believe this new reality is teaching us is the importance of relationships.
Wow.
We're seeing it now, right? Like, we're not just talking about job search here. We're talking about, man, like I am sheltering in place at home. I don't live with anybody. I need some social interaction. And so now I am just to get the support I need so that I don't feel anxious all day long. I'm 3 times, 5 times more likely to call a whole bunch of people so that I feel better. Well, the job market is sending us the same message, is that you can't, you can't ignore your anxiety. You have to confront your anxiety and reach out to more people directly. I'm oversimplifying things, but sometimes simple is better. You have to reach out to more people directly Because ultimately, at the end of the day, a computer or an online application doesn't hire someone, a person does. And so if you are not contacting people and scheduling conversations with them, even if they're just catch up or advice, you're really missing the boat on the one thing that is going to help you be more successful in the job market.
Wow. I love that. It's interesting. What comes to mind when you talk about this is, I've done my reach out challenges or just put it out there. I want to have some conversations with strangers on my Instagram. And I remember my intention was I didn't want anything from them. Like it was just one nice organic conversation I always talk about doing the reps. And I noticed without an agenda and being authentic, I don't know if you agree with this, that's when the jobs happen. That's when it comes. Go
ahead. I didn't realize you were still going.
I was done. Like another example is like when I was doing the free hugs, I wasn't looking for a job and I gave some lady a free hug, which I can't do now, obviously, but I remember I just gave up on trying to find a job, but then I was giving this lady a free hug and she's like, I love your energy. Are you looking for a job?
Yeah. Now here's the challenge with authenticity, and I think you shared a lot of stuff that we could unpack if we have time today. The problem with authenticity is for some people, they're so unself-aware with who they are and what feels right to them. They're so concerned about what other people think. True authenticity for themselves looks like. So a lot of people think they're being authentic and they're not yet, or they have some skills to learn or whatever. So another message I think that the pandemic is sending to the world, at least, and I consider myself pretty self-aware, and I think it's sending me the message is this is an opportunity for you to step back, really crystal clear on who you are, who you want to be, and where you want to go. And if you take that time for yourself, instead of like, don't get me wrong, like I love YouTube, I love Netflix, but some of that time, instead of binge watching Netflix for 8 hours one day, chunk of that time and spend time thinking about who you really want to be and whatever, and then that authenticity part is going to become easier for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of reminds me of the understanding. Well, of course, you and I kind of have the connection with MKP. Mm-hmm. My life has become a lot more enjoyable if I really just took a step back and in a raw way think to myself, all right, how do I want to show up in the world? What difference do I want to make on the world, and really get raw with it. And I've noticed that my decisions become a lot easier because I'm like, all right, does this fit how I want to show up in the world, or does it not? And then bam, decision made.
Yeah, you're being a lot more intentional. You're being a lot more conscious about what you want to do. And that reminds me of one of the things that I wanted to talk about today. When you and me first started talking, and we talked about, man, hey, there's a lot of people out there that's struggling right now, and even some of the three of us, I think we're struggling at that time, and have to one, being self-aware that that's going on. So I talked about being a yes to everything. So when my internet completely stopped working and broke down while we were recording this, I didn't get all caught up with everything that was going on and whether it was going to negatively affect the broadcast or anything. I'm just like, well, this is the reality. I'm going to find the humor in this. And so embrace the anxiety. And then, because until you embrace the anxiety is sending you a message that you're afraid of something, and the anxiety is sending you a message of, if you're conscious about it, what can I do to improve, or what can I do to change things, or what can I do to make myself feel more safe? Until you actually embrace, oh, I'm really anxious right now, you can't have that whole dialogue with yourself. Once you do that, you can move on to the step that you were talking about. Hey, well, based on where I'm at, whether job search or confronting my social anxiety in terms of meeting strangers or walking up to a woman or walking up to a guy that you want to meet. Now you can say, hey, well, what energy do I want to bring to this situation? Or what do I want to do? I particularly like the energy because a lot of times if people are going into a new situation that makes them really uncomfortable, they don't know what to do. Everybody kind of knows what energy or emotions they might want to take. So I'm going to make a confession. I actually had a really bad week. Tons of anxiety over the past 8 days. Like, there was a lot of stuff I was worried about in my business and helping people, and I wasn't making the progress or whatever. And I finally let myself feel that. So the same process that we just talked about. What energy do I want to bring? And so I even posted it on social media, and I said, I choose to be fun and productive today. Those were the energies that I chose to bring today. Well, sure enough, and I'm not saying it was easy by any means. We've been joking around like I'm having a blast today. I'm having a lot of fun today. My day was way more productive than most of my other days this week. If I had not made that decision for myself, I don't think I would have gotten there.
So really setting that intention, even when it's not the easier thing to do, kind of sets the tone.
Especially when it's not the easy thing to do. So even though I sound like I'm a great communicator and I speak on stages now and different podcasts and stuff, I still get social anxiety, especially in large groups of people where I don't know anybody. And
so do I.
So this Christmas time, my friend invited me to a Christmas party because I'm not usually around at Christmas time, but I didn't know who the host was. And so I thought I was only going to know my one friend and nobody else. So I had a lot of anxiety about going.
So how did you get around that?
Yeah. Well, one, I said, what's the alternative? What do I really want to do? What's going to give me more joy? Is it going to be sitting at home and avoiding the anxiety? Or is it going to be taking a risk and at a minimum getting to spend time with, one of my friends, even if she wasn't able to be with me the whole time and it was only for 5 minutes, I was going to get more enjoyment out of that than avoiding the situation. Then the next thing I did was, I said, well, with that being the case, if I'm going to force myself to go or I'm going to choose to go, what energy do I want to bring? And so one of the energies I choose is fun energy or playful energy. Sometimes I say, hey, I'm bringing sexy energy tonight. And, as funny as it might sound, like it works. And it takes some practice, and you're not going to feel like the sexiest person in the world or the funnest person in the world the first couple times you try this, maybe. You're going to feel more fun and sexy or whatever you want to feel than you would have normally.
Now, do you say like in your head, I am sexy, I am sexy, I am like, I do it sometimes where I say, I am confident, I am doing the best I can, I bring value everywhere I go, that type of stuff to myself. Is that what you mean? Or
that can certainly help. The first step is choosing. So every situation where you have anxiety or every situation in general, there might be something different about it. And so you might need different energy for, going to a party than walking into a bar or walking into an interview or whatever.
Okay. So my question is to keep this for the next podcast. Let's do this for fun.
Yeah.
What energy do I intentionally bring to show up the best I can?
Yeah. So that's a great one in particular because there's an additional tool. The thing I love about your podcast is you guys are givers, and there's, like I said, there's at least hundreds of millions of people struggling from anxiety out there. And so you're giving people a gift. And so if you can focus on, well, who can I be to best serve my audience today? Who can I be to best serve my audience today? Or what energy can I bring to best serve my audience today? It takes a lot of pressure off of yourself because you're helping other people. But, if you forget that part and it's still, well, hey, what kind of energy do I want to bring to my podcast today? Like, am I feeling a little bit more fun and playful, or, am I feeling a little bit more analytical and deep? All of those are probably aspects of your personality, and all of them are going to show a different side of you that different members of your audience are going to resonate with. So as long as you choose an energy that feels right for you, that you want, you're going to be successful no matter what you choose.
I love that. Yeah. It makes me think of, there was a day where I did not want to do the podcast, and I was telling Kyle we're doing like a podcast on confidence, and I remember I just had so much resistance because I just didn't get enough sleep and I was stressed and this and that, and I used that energy and I turned it into just vulnerability. Like, I'm having a hard time right now, and I just got vulnerable.
And you shared that during the podcast?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Be a yes to, like, I really don't know if I want to do this podcast right now. And
I like that.
Sharing that with, you and the audience, because that might be a gift for some of you. And, let's work it out together and see where it goes. There's probably a gift or a growth area in there.
I love that. So I have a visual of just like a guy nervous to go up to a girl. He goes up to her like, hey, listen, I was so nervous to go up to you, but I just really wanted to do it and see what happened.
I love that. I love that. Now, something important to realize, because, I know there's especially some of the guys listening, there's going to be a guy or maybe even some girls out there that are be like, oh, well, that's not going to work, blah, blah, blah. Well, first of all, nothing works 100% of the time. Nothing.
Yeah.
However, like, if that woman that guy just went up to has a soul and is caring, and I don't know about you, but like, if I'm going to go out with a woman, I want her to be a caring soul. She's a caring soul. She, like, even if she's not interested in me, she's probably going to be nice to me because I said that.
Yeah.
And if she's not nice to me, she probably wasn't someone I wanted in my life anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah. And to piggyback on that, if say it didn't work out with her, that's fine. You never know. What if you could always, hey, I'm down. I respect the fact that you don't have interest, but let's be friends. Maybe that girl has friends that you might end up vibing with. That's my opinion.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a lot more likely to go somewhere. And, sometimes the growth is just in the attempt. I don't, what you said earlier in the podcast about reps is important. Like,
oh, yeah.
Until you, part of the reason why you have anxiety around something is because it's unknown. It's not a habit yet. It's not comfortable.
Yes.
So the anxiety is not going to start to go away until you get those reps in. Now, do I think you should go out there and approach 1 million people? Probably not. But the rep itself, even if it doesn't go well, is probably going to go a long way. Or
Yeah.
maybe you just figure out something that doesn't work for you or doesn't feel authentic, and then you can change it.
Yeah, this makes me think of a previous podcast that our guest talked about concentrating on effort over results.
That's something I work about. That's something I work a lot with my career coaching clients on.
Yeah, and so I've talked about this in previous podcasts, but when I do my social coaching, I just like give me 10 hellos. I don't care how the person responds. Like just getting those hellos out there and showing the brain that the rejection isn't even that bad is always such a big one. I think it definitely plays a part in jobs. Like I'm going to apply to 20 jobs today, not get a job today.
And I'm lighting up here because I love the fact that you steered the question, you steered the conversation in terms of effort rather than results. The other thing that I think, regardless whether it's approaching someone for a romantic relationship or just building meeting more friends or job search or whatever, is not only do we need to do the reps, but to celebrate the fact that we did them and do the effort, even if the results weren't there. We have to celebrate it. So one of the things that I do with every single one of my coaching calls is at the start of the call, clients know if they've been working with me for a while, I'm like, hey, what are you celebrating? Or if I talked to them yesterday, I have to come up with something they celebrate. So I have a lot of anxiety around making phone calls. For some reason, I have more anxiety around making phone calls than I do meeting someone face to face. Reminds me of a funny story in college where like I spent like 2 hours writing out exactly what I was going to say to this woman that I wanted to ask out. I'm just embracing the fact that I said that out loud on a podcast. So made me laugh a little bit. Where was I going with this? So celebrating, hey, like even if I didn't reach anybody on the phone, I dialed the number, man, like find something that makes you feel good so that the next time you make the phone call or the next time you want to walk up to a woman or whatever you're trying to decrease your anxiety around, celebrate it. Like it might be, it might be dancing, it might be, it might be laughing, it might be, doing a power pose and whatever. Like you need to train your brain and your nervous system that thing that you once feared is actually an enjoyable experience for you and you'll want more.
Yeah, this reminds me, perfect sense. This reminds me of when I reach out to people for this podcast, I never concentrate on whether they say yes or no. Usually I know I won when Instagram says you're blocked, you've sent enough messages. I celebrate that. I usually send that screenshot to Kyle.
Nice.
Right,
That's
Kyle?
awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to write that down and I'm going to use that because sometimes I still worry too much about reaching out to too many people.
Yeah. For me, it's not a success until I get that blocked message. I'm like, yes, got it. Next level. Make it a video game.
Because that is a sign, and I'm just talking this out on how brilliant this is that you were blocked. That is a sign that you're putting in more effort. 99% of other people out there.
Yeah.
Most people are like sending one or two, and they're like, "Oh, nobody's getting back to me."
Yeah.
Your brain that like it's a unenjoyable experience where you're celebrating it, man. You're bragging about it. I love it.
Yeah, and a lot of times I just forget about it. I'm like, all right, I succeeded. I got my like blocked message, and then all of a sudden the next day I'm getting all these messages of just like, I would love to be in your podcast. I would love to. Just like, oh,
Nice.
I forgot I did that. I was just kind of excited for the stuff I sent.
Love it. Well, sounds like you guys are ready for the next level in terms of things. It's going to be exciting.
Kyle, you got anything?
Yeah, so I liked what you said earlier about how don't expect everything to work on the first try, or don't expect everything to have 100% success rate. And I always think that you have to fail to be able to expose anxiety in the full way. And it reminds me of a time when I started doing little challenges for myself when I was in college, and where I forced myself I had to raise my hand one time in every single class.
Love it.
Yeah, the first few times I did it, it went well. I answered the question correctly, or whatnot, no big deal. But when I really felt it was when I raised my hand and I said the wrong answer, and professor was like, "No, that's not correct." Then I really felt that anxiety, and I kind of bared that in. But I think if you have 100% success rate, you're not gonna get the same growth as if you get those fails in.
Yeah, I think that exercise that you did is so brilliant. Like that's simple enough to break down for anyone, no matter what anxiety they're doing. Simply the fact that you're raising your hand, or you're putting on a free hugs t-shirt, or you're holding up a free hug sign, or whatever it is, like mere fact that you did that is a step in the right direction. An interesting thing. So I speak at a lot of colleges and universities to train students, and of course students tend to have more anxiety than adults. Studies have actually found that people that simply raise their hand more in classes get better grades than people that don't.
Sure.
The professor doesn't know who you are and doesn't remember your name, then there tends to be a bias that, oh, maybe this person's not working as hard or whatever. And so people that raise their hand or go into a professor's office hours, great for another day, but I was scared to death of my statistics professor in college, but I was in danger of failing the course, and I wouldn't have graduated with my bachelor's degree if I hadn't gone in and told my professor and told him that I was struggling. But the mere fact that I did that, he passed me.
Wow.
The other thing I wanted to say about raising the hand is one of the things that a lot of my career mentors at the corporate level told me very early on in my career is if there's ever a company meeting or a department meeting, doesn't matter if it's in person or virtual, be the first or the second person to raise your hand and ask a question. It's one of the easiest ways to raise your visibility, people that know who you are. And so, people that rose their hands and asked questions tend to be the people that got salary raises and promotions. It was funny that you brought up that story.
I'm taking notes. While I'm taking that note, I have a similar story. I was in a class at Santa Monica College, and I put so much effort into this test and studying, and I had a meeting with the teacher, and I was like, all right, the next test I'm going to study. And then we went over, and then I made it so known I really wanted to get a good grade on the next test. And I ended up failing or getting a D on the test. And I went into his office and I was like, I don't understand. I studied so hard. I think I got a D or F. And then he's like, well, hold on. Let's go over the test. I'm going over the test. I'm like bawling. I'm crying, just like the beginning of my college career. And I'm failing already. And he's like, all right. So we go over the test and he asks me the questions. And for some reason, when he asked me the questions the second time, I started like giving the right answers. And I don't understand why, but he just saw how determined I was and how I was putting a lot of effort into it. And he's like, what was your grade on the test? I was like, a D. He's like, what do you mean? You got an A. He changed it. Don't tell anyone I did this.
And there's a lot of gold nuggets in that story you told. And so I'm probably going to miss some of them. But one of them was, you were authentic, like crying in front of, another human being is not comfortable for most people. And, you did it. Saying that, you worked hard and, I don't know if you were embarrassed or said something around it. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but saying that, you don't understand, like those are all vulnerabilities that help people connect with you so that they want to help you and they want to embrace you. Now, if you had done the opposite and you had said, like I'm feeling anxiety, like, I don't like talking to professors or I don't like talking to people, and like you had totally avoided it, you wouldn't have come close to that result. You probably would have been stuck with a D. So brilliant, man. Love it.
So just changing gears a little bit and kind of going back to getting your dream job or just getting a job. I see this question a lot. People ask, what's a good job that I can get that will work with me with my social anxiety? And so I really don't know if that's really the approach to even think of it as. Maybe you can weigh in a little bit as you can either try to get a job that'll work with your social anxiety and sort of kind of, I guess, keeps you in your comfort zone a little bit, or should you try and get a job that maybe that's something that you're more passionate about, something that you're more into, even if it is to kind of trigger social anxiety a little bit?
Yeah, there's a lot of great gems in that question you asked. So if I miss part of what you wanted to talk about, circle me back. But the first thing I want to say is, well, if your top priority is overcoming social anxiety, then and you don't know what you want to do, then get a sales job. I mean, there are tons of sales jobs out there. It's one of the areas. It's one of the job functions that they're always looking for salespeople, and so someone's going to take a chance on you. That's actually how I started out my career. Is I said, well, where do I want to go with my career, and then how can I most easily get there, and what are the sorts of jobs that would help me get there? And I said, well, I think I would really benefit from becoming good at sales. I didn't specifically say it to overcome social anxiety, but I could have if that was my goal. So a lot of my social anxiety has become more knowledgeable because I forced myself to go out there and talk to people more in a sales capacity. I ended up being really bad at sales. But I got really knowledgeable about other things like marketing. And I did, a lot of my anxiety did start to go away. Now I want to go back to, I think a big part of your question is I would never counsel someone to get a job to overcome their social anxiety. Now, I'm not going to choose for you. If that is your goal, is, man, one of my top 3 things in the world is to confront my social anxiety, then that's different than go for it and, get a sales job or get a job where you're constantly interacting with people, like customer service or whatever. Customer service is great because that way you don't even have to call people as much. A lot of times, the people are calling in.
Yeah.
But you actually started to answer part of the question for me. And I really encourage people to think about their careers in terms of, where do I want to go? What and the right question is different for everyone. So one of my favorites is, what are you passionate about? Sometimes people are like, oh, well, I don't know what I'm passionate about. All right, we'll change the question. What excites you? If you're not passionate about anything or nothing seems to excite you, then start with what you're interested in. Now, if you can't come up with at least 5, if not 20 or 30 things that you're interested in, then you're not trying, because everybody's interested in something. I don't care if it's superheroes or sports or comic books or whatever. Like, everybody's interested in something. So if you're interested in animals, well, then you can start exploring whether you want to be a veterinarian or working for the marketing department of PetSmart or the Humane Society or whatever. So people don't have to pick the exact job right off the bat, especially if they're early in their career. Just say, well, what interests me? And I would lean towards the one that interests you more than others, even if it's just 1 or 2%. Then you can start building a plan and figuring out through trial and error, research, conversations with people, and figuring out what's best for you. What's best for me and what I wanted has changed and evolved throughout my career. And that's the case for most people. More about yourself, you're becoming more self-aware over time. But if you just ignore it and you say, well, this is the biggest mistake I see people make, is they say, well, what type of job should I get? That's the worst type of question to ask someone, because no one knows you as well as you know you. And so if you just blindly say, oh, well, they're hired for a lot of accounting jobs right now, or, and I have friends that are amazing, wonderful accountants. I'm not picking on accountants. But if I had listened to someone that told me that, hey, I was good at numbers and, my personality profile said I'd be a good accountant, I would be miserable right now. But because I focused on what's going to bring me joy, what interests me, like, it led to a lot of cool things in my career path.
That's so cool. I like that too. I was also taking notes.
I love it. I'd be taking notes too if I wasn't talking so much.
Yeah.
And if you're listening at home right now, or you're listening, well, I guess everybody's at home right now. If you're listening at home right now and you're like, well, that's fine for Mike because he's more outgoing for me or whatever. Like, I'm really not. Like, I chose what energy I wanted to bring to today in general. I chose what energy today that I wanted to bring to the podcast. And 80% of my day, I'm not this talkative. Like, I'm not this outgoing with everybody. And so I just want you to know, if you're listening at home, that I was once where you are. And if you choose that, you want to move in the direction of me or Jeremy or Kyle or whoever, makes a good role model for you, that's possible for you.
I love that. Definitely. And one thing that comes to mind is just going easy on yourself along the way. I went to a grocery store yesterday, and the lady, I like having deep conversations. I don't like to have this surface level conversation. I asked her, so what's going on? How are you holding up? At first she gave me the surface level, oh, I've been good, this and that. What about you? And I was like, to be honest, it's been such a roller coaster of emotions. Some days I'm really depressed and this and that. And some days I'm really happy. I just got vulnerable with her. And she gave me a look like, oh, thank God, finally someone else is going through it. And she's like, all right, just to let you know, yesterday I had a breakdown. And I'm like, I look at her, I'm like, that's all right. And then I said, I hope you're going easy on yourself and you're forgiving yourself as quickly as possible, because that is totally normal. I had the same thing. She just feels so good to hear that.
That's awesome.
I do not care how happy someone sounds or how successful someone is, whatever your definition of happiness or success is, everyone has days when they struggle. Everyone has days when they're off. And I didn't really get this until, I went to a networking event, and there was a speaker that I really looked up to. He was the former CMO of a Fortune 1000 company, might have been even bigger than that.
Really quick, some people don't know what CMO is.
Oh, thank you. CMO, Chief Marketing Officer. And he said in front of everybody that that he was, when he took the position, he was scared to death. Scared to death that he was going to fail, that, you know, he didn't know everything that he needed to do. And then he told this other story about how he was hanging out with 6 executives for dinner, and he was just having a tough time in his relationships, and he bore his soul to those other senior level people, and it cracked open everybody's heart. Everybody's got something that's struggling. And so the sooner we embrace that it's okay and have those conversations with people, the better we're going to feel, the better they're going to feel. That's something that I haven't not quite at the point where I'll talk to random people in the grocery store, but that's beautiful. I love it, man. You gave that woman a gift.
Yeah, there's also this, in my judgment, there's such a fight or flight going on right now, and it was like this uncomfortable silence. Like, we should not talk about this, topic. We should gotta be all fight or flight and avoid each other and this and that. Like, saying hello from beyond 6 feet is not gonna higher chance of getting the disease, I don't think. And there was there's one scare I had where there's this person in the grocery store who usually gives me like a hug, and they kind of went for him. Whoa, hold on! I was like, what are you doing? I had to like give him an elbow.
Yeah, I saw one of my friends recently, and I really wanted to give her a hug, and she's like, nope, can't do it. That's okay. I mean, that's part of the process of embracing the unknown and embracing, appreciating wherever you're at and wherever the other person's at. I've seen some amazing things happen in social situations where if we just speak to the discomfort, like the entire conversation changes, the entire energy changes. So beautiful, man. Wow. I'm curious to kind of get your guys' expertise. Like, what do you think we need to be doing as society, or what do you think we need to be doing as individuals to help people with the increased anxiety and lack of interaction out there? Any thoughts?
Oh, I can go on and on. But we've talked about being real about it, being vulnerable about it, looking at it, or having a positive framing for it. And if you're having a hard day, just have in the back of your mind that just keep moving forward. Nothing lasts forever, and that's even a bad mood. And accepting that a bad mood doesn't last forever, a good mood doesn't last forever, and just keep on trucking towards however you want to show up and whatever your mission is. And especially in connection, like Kyle and I had the idea of throwing our first social tomorrow, and I have a lot of resistance towards that. I have it like, no one's going to want to show up. It's not, the things are going to go wrong. Why am I doing this? And just doing it, showing up. And actually, in our last podcast, we had a guest, and he just says it's sometimes just showing up as opposed to showing up well is really, really powerful. At the beginning, it's just embracing it, not like being bad at something, however that looks in your life. If it's reaching out to a bunch of people, at the beginning of reaching out to people, it's going to be bad, and that's okay. But it's just like, just continuously do it and be real about it. Like, if you do a post and you need some help, you can preface it with saying, hey, this is uncomfortable to do, but is there anyone out there who maybe you or someone else you in your life knows about any jobs in sales, something like that. And just being, I having like a pre-conversation. Our last, guy in our podcast was talking about having deep conversations, and he'll like give a pre-question, like, are you open to a deep question instead of asking the deep question?
Yeah, I do that sometimes too.
Yeah, and he talks about like at these networking events to not have it where you want to be liked by everybody, that you're not going to be liked by everybody, and to just know that going in is really important.
All good strategies. What are your thoughts, Cal?
Yeah, so my thing is, because I'm really big on routine. I go through a routine every single morning. It's very particular and precise. Helps me prep my my mind for the day, and I know the difference whether if I do it and I don't do it. I know if I do it, I feel a lot better mentally, and my mental health is a lot better. I have a lot less anxiety. So I think if you don't have some sort of routine, I think right now is a really good time to start creating that habit to have one.
Yeah.
And something that I'm trying to do right now is, seeing how we're on quarantine and I have 3 kids, so now they're all at the house with me as well. I'm having to shift my routine and kind of tweak it to adjust to this new schedule. So that's something I'm currently working on right now. So.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's huge, man. That's like 2 or 3 podcasts in itself, just talking about what the right routine is for everybody right now. But
Mike, what's your routine, Mike?
yeah, so I am. I've been spending the last 3 months sort of redoing my routine, and so I've been studying stuff like how that I admire do their routines and habits and stuff. And before I get into my routine, I just want to say, don't have a routine. Have a routine. I'm going to say that again. Even if you don't have a routine, you have a routine. It's just probably a bad routine.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's a routine that's not serving you. It's perpetuating whatever sort of life you have. So for the longest time, I fell out of I used to be a competitive athlete in high school and college. And then after that time was over, I got out of the routine of eating in sports as often or working out as often or whatever. And so I trained my brain unconsciously without realizing it that I had a routine of not working out. I had a routine of being lazier. And so my body type started to shift from, being 6% body fat to, being overweight. So now part of my routine and my new identity for myself is, well, I'm healthy. Well, actually it's I'm sexy. And so I always say, all right, well, what is sexy Mike? What does sexy Mike need to do today? Or what is sexy Mike's routine perpetuate the sexiness? But a couple of things about my routine is, one, I have found that my routine actually starts the night before. If I do not get 8 or 9 hours of sleep, my day usually doesn't go well. Not always, but a lot of cases. So getting a full night's sleep is part of my routine. Another change that I've made recently that's really working for me is my goal is never to hit the snooze button.
Nice.
Get in the habit of hitting a snooze button, like you're hitting a snooze, like you're pausing on the day, delaying the day. It's actually another form of anxiety. Like anxiety is like you're not ready to start the day. You're not ready to tackle the day. Your routine started with, hey, I'm ready to tackle the day, whether that's not hitting the snooze button, whether that's popping up or whatever. I choose to, Jeremy alluded to affirmations earlier in the call. I choose to do a version of affirmations which I call incantations, about who am I and who do I want to be, and saying it, not only saying it, not saying I'm confident, I'm inspirational, like embodying that I want to have, because I still have to train my mind and my body, because that is not yet a habit yet. So it becomes a habit, like we need to do it with the positive energy. We need to do it with our whole body, so that the body and our brains realize that, no, this is the part of the new reality for me now. And then I start included in there, actually before the affirmations, I meditate every day. So if you don't know what meditation is, I mean, that's something for another call, but you know, it's simple as breathing, focusing, clearing my head. And you know, there's a lot of different ways to do it. And then, you know, my head's clear of all the habits that aren't serving me. And then I can fill my brain and my body up with those stronger beliefs that really serve me, whether it's being sexier or being more courageous. You know, the opposite of the anxiety, the opposite of the thing that we're struggling with. So all of my routines involve acknowledging where I'm at, where I want to go, and then reinforcing those beliefs with things that are going to drive me forward. That makes sense.
Yeah, I love what you said about doing it with intention, because I've had a past messages of I am weak and I have no value, blah 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 blah. Old story. And delete. Who said that?
Unacceptable.
Acceptable. Control delete. And I remember I just really embodying, like, I am powerful. And I remember at the very beginning, me like using that. I had a sales job and I was on my way to work, and I was like, I am powerful. I bring value everywhere I go. I am powerful. And at the beginning it was really weak. And I was like, no, how would someone who's actually powerful and provides value everywhere he goes, how would they say it? And I just said it more and more, and I felt it. And I remember I ended that self-talk with just like a big roar. The scream. Yeah. I was on the freeway, whatever. And I think that day at the office, I did like the best in sales I've ever done in my life.
Yeah. And you know, you talked about the roar or whatever, and that goes to, you know, we talked about not avoiding anxiety, but actually acknowledging that it's there. And I think you had some of these conversations when you guys have talked about the Mankind Project in the past. Is, you know, one of the funny things about emotions is if you suppress one of your emotions, like anxiety, you're actually partially suppressing all of your emotions. You know, your joy, your confidence, or whatever. Like when you stop feeling and you're, you know, you're numbing yourself out. You know, I don't care whether it's, you know, through alcohol or simply not feeling or too much TV or whatever. You're actually telling your brain that, oh, well, you know, what you want and what you're going through isn't that important. And so your brain and your body start to turn off, where you're not feeling the good stuff as much. And I learned this last part from Tony Robbins. Emotion creates motion. Emotion creates motion. And so whether it's saying affirmations or it's celebrating the fact that, you know, you walked up to 10 women or you made some phone calls or whatever, like, you have to bring emotion to it for your body to realize it's important. And I'm going to warn you guys, my battery, this is speaking to the moment, and embracing what's real. My battery's starting to die, so I'm curious how you want to wrap up this thing today.
Kyle.
Yeah. So, yeah, we always ask this one question. It sounds like you've listened to some of our podcasts, so you probably know what I'm about to ask. So if there's one message you can send out to the entire world, just kind of billboarding it, what would it be?
Wow, man. You guys asked me that,
emotion,
and I'm like, man, but I got 57 and a half things I want to say. So I'm going to break the rules and I'm going to give you two. I'm a rule breaker. I can't help it. So number one, focus on what you can control, not what's outside of your control. Focus on what you can control, not what's outside of your control. The reason why a lot of times I experience anxiety, why you experience anxiety, is you're focusing too much on things that you can't control. The moment that you shift your energy or your consciousness to, okay, well, that's outside of my control, but what can I control? There is, it doesn't matter if it's the coronavirus or another world problem that's going on. Like, even though like you alone can't solve that problem entirely, you do have control to do something to contribute to making the world a better place, or going out there and helping to get more medical professionals to get masks to protect themselves. There's always something I can do that you can do to take control of things. And then what I would end with is, don't focus on what's wrong. Focus on what you want. And, I had an acquaintance of mine. She was one of my biggest social media followers. She like commented on everything. And I asked her, so what do you want? What do you want to focus on? And instead of focusing on what she wanted, she proceeded to like give me a 6 or 7 minute answer on her anxiety and what she was anxious about, which I totally get that she was in a tough spot, especially with everything going on. But until she, and she actually ended up unfriending me over this, which is just her part of her journey in terms of figuring out where she needs to go. Until she starts to change her focus to what's giving her anxiety to where she's going to want to go, she's always going to be anxious. She's probably going to be 10 times more anxious than other people. So, so choose something that gets you excited, choose something that moves you to a better place, and focus on that.
Love it.
A lot. But it brings up the dynamic of life is gonna. There's this guy. I did a challenge. I don't want to get too much in this story, but I did a challenge where I had a sign that says "Jeremy talks to strangers," and I had the sign above my head, and I was so nervous, and I did it anyways. And there's so many lessons that I learned. There's this guy who approached me, and he was homeless, and like my first reaction was to judge him and not take him seriously because he's homeless and this and that. But I'm all about challenging my judgments, right? And I can get on and on about how the problem is people don't challenge their judgments because they have shame on them. But he actually had more knowledge to drop on me than almost anyone I've ever talked to.
Love it.
This guy is homeless, and one of the things he talks about is life is gonna throw the same lessons at you over and over again until you learn them.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. Can I say one last thing before we break?
Of course.
So a lot of people are struggling right now, and it's totally normal. I mean, there's a lot of things to be anxious about. I mean, we talked about, hey, it's okay to not be okay right now. And I just wanted to let your listeners know that around anxiety, especially around making money and the job search, like I'm actually cutting back on the paid clients that I'm taking on right now. And I'm creating a lot of free tools and resources out there. And so I want to invite your listeners, I want to invite you all listening out there to come check me out on social media at Career Success Secrets. So especially my Career Success Secrets Facebook group, because every day I'm pouring resources and stuff in there where you can ask questions and get help right now. And then that's sort of the go-to place where you get, every time I'm doing something free, which is a lot right now, that way you'll hear about everything, so that, because life's too short, man. I don't want your listeners to be encountering anxiety around their careers and making money and whatnot. So if I can help your listeners, I hope they join me there.
Cool. That's actually Kyle's next piece. Where can people find you?
Oh, well, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost all my social media handles are Career Success Secrets. And my Facebook group is Career Success Secrets Now, underneath the groups. Yeah, feel free to break the rules and, ask me random questions about job search on different posts and stuff, and I'll help you guys out the best I can.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank you, Mike.
you, Mike.
Love it.